Hi, I'm Maddie Freeman. I'm from Littleton, Colorado, and my organization is NoSo November. We educate young people on the harms of social media, on mental health, and then we support them by offering them an experience of logging off all social media for the month of November to participate in a detox and prioritize their well-being and mental health.
Hi, my name is Bruny Kenou. I am from Maplewood, New Jersey, and I'm also the founder of Lay Mental Health Advocates, a nonprofit focused on educating laypersons in the public and then turning passion into advocacy and action through patient to advocate matching and other social determinants-based missions. I would say right now I really do see youth taking an unapologetic approach to leadership within the youth mental health space. I think often being able to use your own stories as a catalyst has been something that youth might be afraid of because of the stigma that comes along with telling your story and the consequences that may come, whether it's not being able to get a job or not being able to go to grad school or even just live your life. And so I think it's really time for you to really challenge that to prior generations and even people in our generations who think that might be weird in order to find solutions and shed that fear long enough to find efficient solutions.
Yeah, I think shifting the status quo from it always being adults leading and taking action to making it normalized for youth to really step into the picture and actually make change. I think for me, when I kind of stepped into a leadership activist position, it was almost like I was an outlier. I was special because I was young. And that obviously that feels good, but it'd be so much better if it was normal and typical for young people to be in those roles and also have access to those opportunities and really just make it a normal thing for young people to do.
What have been some of the biggest challenges for you as a youth leader in this space?
I think a big one that I've been talking about a lot with others this week has been just how the media can kind of manipulate you because of their goals versus your goals. And I think as a young person, I went into it really excited, oh my God, this huge newspaper, this huge publishing company wants to interview me. It's oh my gosh. And then you kind of look past the fact that they don't want to actually highlight your work. They want a juicy headline.
Right.
And that happened to me a lot. I got manipulated and lied to about what the stories were going to be about. And then they used my story in a way I asked them not to. And then completely didn't even mention my actual work or my organization, which they said was going to be the whole focus of it. So I think being a young person, having that understanding and having adults help us understand how we should interact with media, what the normal interaction should look like. I think that's just one that comes to mind. But I'm curious, how about you?
Yeah, I would say being a youth and leadership space, you have the great inside of you to want to be a leader, but you lack the experience and you lack the knowledge of what you should and shouldn't do, which is why mentorship is so important and why maybe people are so surprised when they see youth in these leadership spaces, because they're you're so young and you don't even know how certain systems work, and it's true, but that doesn't mean that what you want to do and your cause isn't important and that you won't be able to reach it. So when you bring up just being manipulated and not knowing, and also the idea of being so excited that people are finally seeing you and noticing you, especially when you feel like you come from an invisible experience or an experience that's often hidden under the rug, and someone's hey, I want to feature you. There's that excitement, but then it's very easy for them to see that, and especially if you don't have the right mentorship, take advantage. And some of the things that could protect youth from some of the downfalls to make them more efficient leaders are some of the things I think about. And so what are those things? What would you say if there was one thing that could make youth leadership more effective and really protect youth leaders more so they can do work better? What might?
I think you very much touched on it earlier, is mentors and adult allies. Having adults, again, it's shifting the narrative, having adults that believe in young leaders, but also can support them in many different ways and give them kind of the expertise that they had and the lived experiences they've had. Obviously, living on the planet for longer, they've learned many more lessons and they're more aware of their surroundings. And so I think having adult allies give us that knowledge and expertise is so helpful. I know for me, sometimes a 1 hour meeting on Zoom can just shift the entire viewpoint of something you're doing, because an adult knows what you're experiencing and wants to help you. And so I think that's really powerful. And even like another point I wanted to make is another challenge I face is like working in giant institutions like schools is so hard. I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah. Like I work with schools, that's my whole organization's role, but I don't know who the go-to person is, and I've asked that question and everyone gives me a different answer. And like there's so many different levels and tiers, and it's like if someone who was like really in the role of a like maybe the principal of a school or someone in schools that works like on the front lines could help me with that, I think it would take away like years of like, oh, I don't know what's going on, I don't know how to do this, I don't know where I'm going with this. Like, so I think like first of all asking for help as a young person, but also adult allies offering help, and just not even like necessarily financially, but just like offering advice, offering mentorship, offering just support, you know.
I would say mentors have definitely made a huge difference for me, especially just being the first in my family to go to college, an immigrant to this country, and just really feeling like I had this fire in me and I needed to do something with it in order not to like, you know, do something that would be a mistake in terms of like trying to organize and it failing. And when it came to my mentors, like they're the ones who taught me like, here's how you use research to change policy. Here's how you go and ask for something. Like these like little micro skills that you learn in your life, even the whole like, how do you ask for something you want and stand firm in it? You don't really learn that. And then when you tack on all the extra identities, it makes it more complicated. So yeah, I think sometimes with the mentorships, sometimes there are people who believe in youth, but don't think youth can handle what they handle leadership. And so they're like, maybe this is too much for you. You need to wait, instead of being like, okay, what do you need?
Right now.
How can I help? Right now.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And I think like kind of going off of that, in grant opportunities, I think it's so much more powerful to give financial support and mentorship support than just like, here's the money, go do something, and then like let us know what happens. Like, so yeah, the first grant I won from Look Up in 2020, like they gave me a mentor and I had direct mentorship from the rest of the board members, and it was like so powerful because it was the first year of my organization, and it's like having that like top level support of someone is so much more beneficial than like just having money, you know, because like even then I might not even know exactly what I should spend the money on, you know. So I think I think having that support and mentorship is so crucial to young people for sure. And it's also like co-mentoring, like having adults learning from young people and young people learning from adults. It's like it's so powerful.
To teach too.
Yeah,
no, we have a lot of things to contribute to the relationship, and I do find myself like teaching my mentors as well, and I do find like the best mentorship relationships I have are with people who also see me as a human being, not just this like powerhouse and go-getter, like someone who is you know, feelings and things they're afraid of, and also me seeing them as that, not just like this like know-it-all like God who will turn me into this person, but actually someone who struggles with things too and has things that make them happy. And just sometimes it doesn't even have to be like helping with my nonprofit. Sometimes it could be like, how's your day going? Tell me about like an exciting vacation. How do I get through this relationship? You know, things like that. That's really made it a holistic mentorship that also builds your character, because a lot of leadership is about your own character and understanding other people's characters to bring out leadership in themselves and other people. And that like personality development is so important for mentorship as well.
I love that. I think it's so that brought up another mentor I had last year who would like literally help me through a breakup and stuff, and it's literally like so much, it's like very relieving and like exciting to have someone actually care about your life, and then you care about their life in return, and you're not only working on mental health like issues and like building an organization, but you're also just like connecting to them, and then that should usually lead to more opportunities to connect with other people in their network too. So
it feels less transactional and more authentic.
Totally.
I feel like they're invested in you in more ways than one.
And then like going back to co-mentorship, it's also like our generation does have things to teach older generation that they genuinely didn't experience. Like my biggest example is social media. We don't adults nowadays do not understand what it's like to go through puberty, to go through middle school, having an Instagram account, having a Snapchat account, having that influence your daily life and your social life. So it's like we can teach them just as much as they can teach us, and I think if everyone's open to that, it can be so powerful.
Yeah, teaching and shedding the idea of like, oh, because I'm older, I know all, and you're just a kid and you don't know anything. Sometimes I have that struggle with my parents and be like, yes, I know I'm young, but I'm not dumb.
Yeah.
Well, not completely. There's definitely things I could work on, but you know, just like having that, like being humble in both places, within both parts of the relationship is how the co-mentorship thing can actually work, because the greater than thou attitude on either side does make it a little bit harder.
Totally.
I think for me, the next thing right now is, you know, as I'm in medical school and learning about the healthcare system, and not only the healthcare system, but also how social determinants, our institutions all fit into this one puzzle. And the fact that if we just focus on the health of the person and not necessarily, like, health is not just the absence of disease, it's actually just like actual holistic well-being. I really want us to sort of like shift and look at what kind of things we're missing in well-being. Like if we fight poverty, that could help mental health. And I think in terms of like my own professional goals, sort of like growing my nonprofit and also getting more into health policy and being in the room when decisions are made, especially being the people who are doing on the ground work and like creating organizations, you often reach roadblocks in your policies, and when you're trying to help someone, you're like, oh, by the way, you can't do that, and they're like, why? It's like, because the policy says you can. They're like, why? And it's like, not even the people who know, who made the policy know why. I'm realizing that being in the room is so important, and I want to be there. So finding ways to be in the room is like the things I've been working on.
I love it. I love what you said about involving other areas, like you said, poverty. I think of like climate change. I think of like AI. I think of just all these things that contribute to mental health and well-being. But like we've talked about, it's very siloed into certain realms, and so that's what's been illuminated for me this week, is like trying to kind of bridge those gaps and make mental health work like all-encompassing, so we can all work together towards the same goal, instead of kind of like, I'm working on this goal, going this way, I'm working on this goal, except we all want the same future. You know. I love that. So I think for me also, just trying to build my nonprofit, very like immersed in that right now, obviously, because there's a lot of stuff going on with just like fundraising, and I'm putting on a race, and like just lots of really exciting stuff with that. But at the same time, I think like just prioritizing my own health, well-being, and like for me that has a lot of different facets, like yoga, meditation. I like doing like Wim Hof breathing techniques, cold plunges, and like all these kinds of things that like seem to fall to the wayside when I'm just like busy and like, oh my gosh, I have all these emails, I have this to do. So I think kind of balancing that, along with like once school starts again, making sure that I'm being present at school, and just kind of keeping a balance in my life is really important. And then just for the future of mental health, I just want to continue connecting with people like you, and we will, because we're going to DC together. So just like continuing to connect with other organizations and like see how we can all support each other, because I really just do see this upward movement where we can all just like grow together and like help each other succeed. You know?
Yeah, I think often with people who are so ambitious and care so much about other people, it's easy to forget about caring about yourself.
It is.
And it takes people around you to be like, hey, how long has it been since you slept? And you're like, oh, wow, it has been a minute. Maybe I should go do that. It's so important to keep the balance, because who's going to protect the protectors, right? We need to make sure you're protected in order to protect other people. You put your oxygen mask on, and then you put the baby's oxygen mask on, and apply that to our own lives. So that's great that you're focused on that too.
I love that. That's the finale.
That's
that was
the
good.
Finale.
That was good.